While this school shooting hit the D.C. region hard, the effects of this tragedy are being felt not only locally, but really nationwide. With school shootings becoming more and more an occurrence, parents are left grappling with how to explain these horrific acts of gun violence to their children. So this morning, counselor and best-selling author Michael McGill Jr. joins us live via Skype with some tips on how to have this serious conversation with your children. Good morning, Michael. And, here we go again. Here we are again.
Yeah, Maureen, I just spoke to you a few months ago about the tragedy in Las Vegas. It's good to see you again, but it's sad that it's under these circumstances.
What do we say to our children now who I fear might be becoming desensitized in some ways to the school violence and violence in general?
Right. It's such a good question. First things first, this really is a pivotal time to give us as caregivers an opportunity to remember that time is but a vapor. We don't know how much time we have with those whom we love. So this is a clarion call, if you will, a reminder that we should be every single day incorporating time where we listen, validate, and connect with our young people so that if they are feeling desensitized, if they are feeling happy, if they're feeling sad, if they're feeling angry, if they're feeling anxious, this gives them a time to say, you know what? Let's begin to talk about our feelings and how we feel about what's happening in life. So this is really a clarion call to start making that commitment to begin to talk it out.
Schools are supposed to be one of the safest places, at least we had thought that was the case, and we're seeing more and more that it's not. A child who has seen this and now is wondering, can it happen at my school? How do you assure them that, the odds are that it may not, even though that we're living with the reality of what happened in places like Great Mills yesterday?
Right. Such a good question. First things first, before I recommend, I give lectures to counselors, teachers, to parents often, and I let them know that kids, they receive the energy that we give them. We radiate energy, whether it's fear, whether it's panic, whether it's health, whatever it is, we radiate that energy. So first things first, as a caregiver, as a parent, really check the energy that you are giving. Ask yourselves, have I come from a place of power or am I coming from a place of panic? I really encourage parents so often, go from a place of power, not a place of panic, meaning that do your own self-care, do your own checkups, vent if you must to your own peers and your own friends, and then begin to have the conversations with your children. So number one, start from a place of power, not from a place of fear and panic. It's okay to be afraid, but we don't want to start with panic. And then number two, when your kids come to you with those feelings and those frustrations, listen and validate. Validate, use empathy, ask more questions than you give more answers, and then let your young people guide the discussion. So much research goes around that as parents, we can either undershare or overshare that can cause anxiety. So listen to understand, validate, really use those words such as, I know this can be really hard for you, or I bet it's scary. Can you tell me why? More often than not, when we give our kids the space to be heard and to be seen, that will loosen some of their anxiety about the situations that we see. So come from a place of power and then you validate.
What do you mean by have age-appropriate conversation or have appropriate conversations? I would think any talk about this would be good to let them know you understand it's happening. But explain further to our audience, what do you mean by that next point?
Such a good question, Maureen. Age-appropriate conversations. Young people, especially before the age of 8, their brains are not, of course, nobody's brain is fully developed until about 25, right? But young people before the age of 8, they can't really fathom what it means that someone came to shoot and kill someone. Of course, they see it on games. They're now seeing it more in television. But for them, it's more of keeping the sentences very direct, small, still. I'll say that again, direct, small, and still, meaning that, say something like a bad person came to school and hurt someone. That's one way that you can have that conversation. But again, for young people especially, if they don't bring it up, I would really caution parents how much you say. Again, let them guide the conversation. But for young people, particularly teenagers, that's when you really want to begin to support them in their resiliency efforts. So again, that's when you have those real and honest conversations about what happened. Ask them how they feel. Ask them what's happening at school. But then ask them, what do they want to do about it? Because you want to give them a voice. We prevent them from being desensitized by giving them a voice, figuring out creative ways, as the students have done so greatly with doing the school walkout. People think that that's a waste of time, but it's really building up that resiliency in young people and letting them know they have a voice. And that voice will make wonderful change in the world.
Indeed it will. Michael McGill, as always, you're so helpful, helping us make sense of the senseless sometimes. We appreciate your time. And how can folks get a hold of you?
Just connect with me at McGillSpeaks.com or at Michael McGill Jr. on social media. That's Michael McGill Jr. And if it's one thing I can say, please, 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 people, don't suffer in silence. Develop a spiritual practice gratitude, connect at family dinners, connect at bedtime, give kids a voice, but don't suffer in silence. And remember, there's help if you need it.
Michael McGill, as always, thank you. All right, back over to you guys.
Thank you, Maureen.
He just puts you at ease, doesn't he?
He does. I like that
helps.
message. Don't suffer in silence. Thanks, Mo. 9:20 right now. Coming up, Braxton